Do I need to learn modern frameworks? My name is Isaac, previous CTO of a funded startup, and I run the checkout team at Pretty Little Thing. The short answer is maybe. So it's difficult to answer this question with a yes or no because frankly, we're not actually defining what the goal outcome is. Without that, it's difficult to know what is the right step. I think people ask this because they're worried about wasting time. I think a lot of people work with technology already, whether it's like Python frameworks, and they worry that what they're doing may either become deprecated or it's not as lucrative as what they could be doing. They're worried about wasting earning time and not advancing in their career as quickly as they could. So it really does depend, and I think to get an answer for this, we need to actually work backwards from what it is that you want. As such, I'm going to be listing various career paths that you could be using in tech, what kind of approach I would suggest you take, whether that's new technology, sticking to what you already do, and then the pros and cons of them, so you can kind of understand from an end goal perspective what you might need to get there. The methods I'm going to be defining are basically jobs, freelancing, and your own business or service. Starting with jobs, depending on your skills, maybe use Python, Django, or whatever, what is actually available to you at the moment in terms of jobs. So don't rush this step. It's very easy to see the new sexy thing. There's a lot of stuff going on with React, Nextjs stuff, and even just all the AI, and it's easy for you to think that there's not a lot of opportunity for the technology that maybe you're already experienced with. And this really is quite specific in terms of what area you want to get into, because maybe your language isn't the preferable thing for the area. So I had someone recently who was saying he built websites with Python, and he's like, hey, do I need to upgrade to the JavaScript framework? If you're just making websites, yeah, most likely. However, if you already know Python, are you sure you want to get into the web service side? Because frankly, if you've already got a depth of experience with Python, why don't you go into the data side? Can you pivot from where you are into something more substantial? The main objective is not to get pigeonholed by what is the main thing that's happening, and understanding what your skill set is and where you can best leverage that, which is why I can't give a straight answer. You can look at trends and see JavaScript and these frameworks booming, especially in the last few years, but they do take time to learn, and unless it does incorporate directly into your objective, maybe not worth it. Maybe you could take that and get more into the DevOps side. You could learn about AWS, Azure, which by the way is very lucrative and well paid, and I think probably one of the jobs that's least likely to get taken by AI, interestingly enough, because it's not like code. A good indicator of whether your current skill set is something you need to move away from is how frequently a job is posted. If you go online and you search for a job, say it's like a midweight, whatever your technology is, how frequently do the jobs move? If you see a job and you come back a week later, is it still there? Are there new jobs there? You kind of want to look for the throughput, like how quick jobs are getting taken by other developers and how quickly new jobs are getting posted. Can you see these jobs on LinkedIn? If you search for Python developer, you will see all the developers that have previously worked at a Python-based role. You can see the companies that do it. Are these reputable companies? Are they companies that you'd want to work for? It is a little bit of a vague step. The goal is not necessarily to find jobs. The goal is to validate whether it is or isn't something that's being used at a big scale or to get into the career that you actually want. And also it completely depends on where you're at in your career. If you're a senior level developer of a framework and you're thinking, maybe I should learn the new thing. Okay, you could. But also, maybe you could actually take a more managerial step and go to project lead. You need to be aware of these frameworks, but you may not necessarily need to know how to develop with them in a way that actually picking up the framework and coding would be. Maybe it's putting projects together. I don't know, but this is more an example. I want you to think about what your main objective is and whether this skill set that you're thinking to incorporate directly affects it. Because if it doesn't, it's not a waste of time, but don't put stock into it. So in terms of end objectives, why would you want to go with jobs? Jobs are very stable. They are quite well paid, although there kind of is a little bit of a ceiling relative to the other two roles. And you're also limited by time. So with the other things I'm going to go over, such as like having a company or freelancing, you can get to a point if you get very good at selling it and drumming up the demand and have a reputation for yourself, you can then actually pay people to do it for you. Companies won't really care that much because they're not actually trying to pay you for your time, they're trying to pay for an outcome. And if they trust that you will deliver that outcome, they don't really mind who you work with. So as long as you make sure the work that goes through you is up to the standard that you set in your brand, you can pay people for it. If you're limited to your own time, there's only so much you can do. If you start working with people and use multiple people's time, then the overall outcome is bigger. So that being said, if you want to work on projects on the side, if your thing is like, I love building products, I just want to travel and be secure, and you can get a remote job, a very good way to do it. Or even experience. If you want to build up experience, get a job. I'm being serious, because you're on the ground working with real life code. Not to mention, you're likely developing with people that are better at coding than you. So try work somewhere where they have a sick team and just soak up everything. So for jobs, it's a little bit more black and white because it's basically just the quality of the jobs that are available and if you actually have access to them. If you're freelancing, it's kind of similar, but it does depend on what you do. So if you're working on a smaller project like on Fiverr, they probably don't care what technology you use. They just want to get the outcome. As such, I'd just advise you to use whatever you're comfortable with, unless you think there are limitations of what you use and then the new frameworks would seriously level up your skill set. Larger projects, however, you will likely need to work on code bases that are pre-existing, and therefore it does depend on what the code base was written to prior. But this is where it gets a little bit more flexible than jobs. So with jobs, it's kind of black and white in terms of, is someone hiring? Can you get hired for it? Freelancing, what if you specialize in updating legacy software? Which I know sounds ridiculous, but this is some people's whole bread and butter. They use very old languages because old corporations are built in this difficult, complicated code that no one actually uses anymore. And because it's difficult to hire people for these older languages, these freelancers come in, they get paid a premium because they're difficult to find, and their whole thing is just upgrading software or porting it to a different language. You can actually brand the skill that you have as something that's rare, as opposed to thinking, oh, I need to jump on the new sexy thing, as long as there is a value to someone. Maybe the easiest way to see demand in that sense is look up freelancing sites, but especially freelancing sites, the type of work that comes in is different than jobs because it's normally one or two different things. It's, oh, I need this problem being solved directly. It's not, I want to incorporate someone into my company. So you have a look on there, look on Twitter as well for the language that you use. That people often post like small jobs on there. Hey, anyone here available for blah, blah, blah. That's how I got my first freelance jobs. You can look on LinkedIn as well because it's easier to hire through there, but it's a little bit different than jobs. The benefit of remote over jobs is, okay, it's definitely not as stable. However, it's very often remote and you can pick your own hours. And especially if it's done on deliverables such as project flat rate as opposed to this hourly, you completely pick your own hours as well and you're not accountable for them. So if they pay you hourly, they're going to try and manage your time a little bit. It's how many hours can I get done in this week, blah, blah, blah. If it's a flat rate and you say, I'm going to get this project, the deliverable expected will be done by the month, completely your time. If you want to have a week, you go ham, and then 2 weeks you just take it off. You can do that. It's basically unlimited vacation. The objective really is to make you think a little bit differently about what you have and what you can get with it. So it's very easy to see the framework and think, yes, this is the new thing. It's saying people are making money. Cool. Could you make money? How long would it take? And with what you have, could you be making money doing other things? Because very often we can. And I have this a lot. I don't know what we call it, maybe like the shiny object syndrome, but I see something and I get so enthralled with it thinking like, wow, I could be doing this and I feel like I'm missing out. And if I actually sat down and thought, right, do I want to do the work to do this cool stuff I see people doing? The answer is 80% of the time, no, I actually don't. Because it's kind of a waste of my time because of what skill sets I have and what I could be doing. So try and take a step back, which is what this video is for. Okay, and then the final thing you could do is work for yourself in terms of having your own company. There is a guy on Twitter called Peter actually, let me find out. I think his name is Peter, not the point. He is a great example of someone that just built his own products. And the reason I wanted to bring him up in this example is he, just drum roll, uses PHP. This dude is making, I'm not exaggerating, let me get the numbers up. He used to put what he was making in his bio, and I think at one point he was making like 2 to 3 million a year. So this guy's pretty serious. Doesn't have any employees, completely works for himself. And again, he codes in PHP. Guys, it's really sometimes not about the code you use, it's how you can use it, especially if you want to build your own service. For people that aren't coders and don't know what that means, it would be like, it's like everyone's using an iPhone 13 and this dude's using an iPhone 8, but he's making better money than most of us. It's weird, but cool. If you start following him and seeing the other things that he posts of other people, there is a whole community of, I think they call themselves indie hackers or digital nomads, whatever. They just travel the world and build small digital products. And they are making serious money doing it. I think a lot of them are Americans. Or go somewhere like Bangkok where it's actually quite cheap to live. The cost of living is really good for how large a city it is. Street food's cheap and gorgeous, guys, really tasty. And they live there incredibly cheaply so they can just build their products and services. So they save up like 5 grand and that would last them maybe like a year and a half, not exaggerating. You're living frugal, you're not splashing, but it's doable. And if you wanted to build up your services and try to make money in the meanwhile, that's something that they do. Worth considering. Now, I understand this is a completely different skill because it's not necessarily coding. You know, you have marketing, you have sales, you have branding. There's a lot of things that go into providing a cohesive service and actually getting people to buy it, which I do find it kind of difficult to learn, however, very rewarding. If you think this is something you're more inclined to do, I would highly recommend it because these skills are going to be used regardless. If you can understand how to sell to someone, how to build a brand, it will change over the years, but not nearly as much as technology. So you're kind of future-proofing yourself. The caveat of this, I suppose, is it may not be easy to get a job. So I think jobs and own service, they're on the complete opposite ends of the spectrum with freelancing in the middle. Building your own service, it's a lot of smaller skill sets combining to create an ecosystem where people can come in and spend money. So it's not the same as technical skills. To learn it, because there's so many different skills, your time's quite divided, you probably won't be an expert in any of them. So if you want to get hired for something, normally they already have such a big system built out that they want experts in specific areas. to tie things together. So it doesn't actually improve necessarily your hiring potential. If you're a senior and you're asking these questions, you're probably a little bit unsure of what to do, I would actually suggest getting into your own service, which I wish I did that a little bit more as a senior. When I was at that level and I was unsure of where to put my time and my skill sets, I now wish I'd done that. I'm aware this is a very nuanced question and I probably haven't answered it to the detail that you actually need to make these decisions, especially if you're completely unsure about where you sit on that spectrum. Please leave a comment. I will actually make a video just going through people's comments and answering them, because I think that's probably the most useful thing I can do. In the videos, I'm just going to try and overall throw darts at a main subject. If there's pinpoints that you think I didn't go into or you want expansion in certain areas, please tell me. I will make content on it. If you know someone who's currently unsure about their career progression and they are thinking about getting into newer technologies, please send them this video so they can make a more informed decision. Thanks, guys.